Anybody want to give a countdown?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, it's done. Recorded.
Welcome to the Nexus Podcast.
Hello, hello.
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 Hi.
We have Sean, our host, Mythlotus, myself, a co-host, doing the announcements, which Sean should probably do, but we'll do this anyway. Walrus, the voice, also co-host, and
Yes.
special guest tonight, the developer of Project Nexus 2, or I should say one of the, Michael Swain.
Hi, that's me. I'm a special guest.
You are pretty special to us.
You're
Thank you, dude.
super special.
Super special.
Shucks. Thanks, guys.
This podcast is here to support the Kickstarter campaign for Project Nexus 2 that Michael and both Matt Crinkles Jolly are trying to produce and raising the money from the Madness community to get this done. The game right now is set for development as soon as the Kickstarter is completed on September 23rd. Is that right, Swain?
The end of the Kickstarter is going to be September 23rd, which is the day after Madness Day on Newgrounds, which I believe falls on the 22nd of September every single year. So yeah, that was timed on purpose that way.
All right. And as far as the actual gameplay goes, it is a 3D action run and gun tactical shooter taking place in the Unity engine. And will take you to Walrus to give a lowdown on the history of Project Nexus 1 and 2 and an overview of gameplay elements and some of the basic features you should know.
All right, are you sitting comfortably, boys and girls? Then we shall begin. Before I talk about the little bits of gameplay and stuff, we should talk about what the hell Madness is in the first place. Madness Combat is an internet flash series created by Matt Jolly, or Crinkles for short, as he is known by his fans. The original Marshmallow Madness was uploaded to Newgrounds.com on the 19th of February 2002, featuring humorous cartoon violence within a grayscale world. As of 2014, it has 1,587,882 views. And only a few months later, the first of the original series, Madness Combat, was released only a few months later, becoming even more popular, with 3,500,000 views, even more popular than its predecessor, and sparking the Madness Combat series. On January the 15th, 2003, the long-awaited sequel, Madness Combat Redeemer, was published on Newgrounds.com, adding a narrative to the series, and a whole bunch of lovable characters, a place of action, that being rural Nevada, and expanding on the art's now ultra-violent style and the blood-pumping soundtracks that are seen within the Madness universe to this day. Starring the quintessential badass, sword-wielding, gun-toting protagonist Hank, the frowny-faced, hook-holding menace Sanford, his best friend and registered chain-smoker Deimos, Tricky the killer zombie clown, yes, this is a thing that exists, and semi-savior Jeebus. Not so much a forgiver, as he is a superpowered, bloodthirsty killer. And finally, the AHW, the villainous gang that hate Hank, as of now, for unknown reasons. The animations alongside its characters were loved so much that many sequels created over the 13 years of its existence, and from 2007, it even has its own annual celebration on Newgrounds called Madness Day, on the 22nd of September, where fans create tributes to the series in forms of animations, arts, and musics. So, now we've got the actual Madness history down, we'll have to talk about Project Nexus. Project Nexus was a flash game created by Michael Swain and Matt Jolly, uploaded to Newgrounds.com on the 25th of March 2012, featuring several game modes such as Arena, Zombie Arena, and 2 story campaigns. As of 2014, the game has surpassed 9 million views on Newgrounds, and for good reason. The game's filled to the brim with violence, fluid animation, and the general amazingness that made Madness famous. So, it consisted of 3 parts: the story mode, which had Madness Combat's main protagonists, Hank, Sanford, and Deimos, battle through endless soldiers and mag units to stop the corrupt Project Nexus, using guns, hooks, and sharp weapons to not only uncover, but destroy all the Project created, from huge mag units to super soldiers. Alongside it, we follow the path of Jesus before he gets his magical and exceptionally violent powers, fighting a mad doctor's zombie outbreak, fighting disgusting abominations, as well as superpowered bosses. The arena mode gives you the ability to create your own Madness character, decking him out in hats, coats, masks, putting him through wave after wave of scum and villainy, improving your stats, weapons, and armor, as well as a system to recruit characters from the Madness series, as well as a few cameo characters to fight alongside you. It's always good fun to see if the creators of the game smack up a few moves. Plus, you can wear a really tiny top hat. How cool is that? Zombie Arena mode, on the other hand, was uploaded on May the 30th, 2012, adding a zombie arena, similar to its counterpart. But this game mode hit you with waves of the undead, gnawing and clawing their way to you. Considerably harder, but also considerably more fun in my opinion. So, once the duo realized they couldn't fit as much as they wanted into the teeny tiny little crawl space that Flash provided and could no longer update Project Nexus, the two realized that an even better program was just around the corner. Unity made it possible to add huge, gargantuan, and sexy, beautiful things to the game. More weapons, more modes, more everything, really. So what's going to be in this new game that's worth creating a Kickstarter over? The story mode's back, of course, but in spades this time. Not just limited to the 10 levels, but loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of them. Great fun, not necessarily for all the family, with a whole insane amount of gore thing. Facing up against huge bosses, cloaked assassins, and of course the terrifying AAHW that's haunted Hank, Sanford, and Deimos for years now. Returning for a second tour, of course, is the Arena mode, having another good boost. Instead of the frame rate issues when only 10 guys entered a room, Unity's going to be able to handle way over the regular number of corpses in a single room, with pits, cover, and boosting a huge amount of customization that the original had, alongside skill trees and even more options and places to customize, from gloves to your little feeties. Finally, we've got our new mode, Z Survival. Looks like the protagonists have failed. That's unpleasant. The Nexus facility's dark secrets have swept across Nevada. That's right, kids. Zombies. Randomly generated landscape house survivors with differing personality traits, from cowards to courageous knights. Form a group of survivals to stand tall amongst the chaos, fight off hunger, bandits, your own group, insanity, and more, as the days turn to weeks and weeks to months. Make weapons from scratch, mixing parts to make insane guns. A pistol with a shotgun barrel? Done. Rifle that shoots grenades? Presto. I wonder how long you can survive. And that's about it, gentlemen.
All right. So, to introduce our own personal takes on the Madness series, since we're going to be talking a lot about it, so our listeners will probably want to know where we're coming from as far as our introduction to the Madness universe and how we've been keeping up with it over our time of it as both the creators and fans of it. Sean, being that you're the host, you should probably head this one up.
Okay. Oh God. When trying to think back.
When did the magic begin?
The magic began. I must have been, God, about 10 or 11. Back in about 2006, and I think I went around a friend's house, and we were playing around. He went on the computer and he went on this website called funnygames.biz. Some really awful Flash website spammed with adverts.
That's the best game. It's the best website in the universe.
And,
how dare you?
We started playing these Flash games. One of them was Clubber Seal. Which one of the best Flash games ever made, in my opinion, not gonna lie. So, I got home and I was like, what else is on this website? I went to the animation section and I found I wonder what I found. I found nothing but Madness Combat 6 being the first one I ever saw, and my eyes lit up like a little child in a candy shop. And from there I think I spent until like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning on a school day just watching Madness Combat. I mean, what about you what about you guys? When was your first experience?
Well, Walrus, I'll give you first.
Oh, putting me in the limelight, are you?
No.
Yeah, I must have started with the 7th episode when I was a extremely young little child, and I was still in the phase of watching or sort of stick battles and stick figures fighting each other, and I was like, "Oh, look at this! These are violent cartoons. It's pretty good, lad." And what I saw scarred me for life in the best possible way. Yeah, I loved the style of it. I loved the ultra violence. I loved basically everything about it. And after watching the 7th episode, I decided I need to watch every single thing that this man has created, because Crinkles is a god amongst men. So yeah, after that, I just watched every single thing all the time. And basically, and to this day, if I'm ever bored, I just say, fuck it, let's just watch some madness, because it's fun. Crap, did I just swear? Are we going to bleep that out? Crap.
You're making your situation worse, Walrus.
What have you
I
done?
did a bad. I did a
Yes.
bad.
Do it
Originally,
with conviction.
Ah! Okay, I guess I'm next. I originally came across the Madness series after getting onto Newgrounds and dealing with a few of the Flash games, finding the original Madness Interactive, which I played way more than I should have. And after playing, what was that little gray best friend game that you had? He was made of little circles, and you basically
Interactive buddy.
Interactive Buddy. And I found after Interactive Buddy, it was immediately Madness Interactive. After that, it kind of kickstarted me into the series. That was around 2005, so in between Apotheses, and Depredation. Anyway, so around there, I've been stuck with the Madness series since, waiting for updates and things like that. Now, I haven't been paying attention to it, I would say, in the last couple of years, mainly because I've been distracting by real life, but it's usually one of the one internet series, along with the tops like Red vs. Blue and some of those, that I always go back to. And when I heard about the Kickstarter, I immediately jumped on board, signed up for the Tumblr when the game was still in early development, and tried to back the Kickstarter as early as I could, even increasing mine. And I've been trying to help the devs as much as I can.
Yeah.
Swain, Michael,
Oh, hi there.
how did you get into the series?
All right, let's see. Obviously, we already know. I think it's been stated many times that Madness started on Newgrounds, and like so many of us who kind of figured out what was going on in the Flash scene, we all started out there too. I like to think we all got there through different means. Mine was actually Salad Fingers. Was the thing that got me to Newgrounds in the first place. I remember watching like the second one in 2004, I think, and thinking, oh man, this is awesome. I feel like I could do this. So I immediately went back to Newgrounds. I hadn't been there in 4 years since it was Tom Fulp's personal Flash submission website, like where he would put up his own content and games and animated GIF games and that sort of thing. And obviously Madness had already started to collect something of a following at that point. So I think that back in 2004, that would have been Apotheosis, I think, was about the time that one came out.
Yeah.
Which was that's like Madness 5 or something, I think, or 4 maybe.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah,
and
that's
then...
4.
Yeah, 4.
That's 4 at this point. Yeah, so already Crinkles had been doing this for some time, since like 2001, 2002. And he'd already kind of developed his signature style. It wasn't just the characters that would one day become famous, but was that. Now, I think at this point, I think Madness Interactive, which was the first game, far prior to Project Nexus, the one that I was responsible for coding. I think that came out in like 2002? I'd have to go back and check, but I forget. But that one was early on, and I think that was the first thing that really hooked me with the series, was playing Madness Interactive. Because I always have a mind for games, and I love this like little fidgety 2D physics-based game where with a flick of your wrist you're actually flinging knives across the screen. And like when your gun is out of ammo, you don't just press a button and your character either throws it or drops it. You physically move your hand back, drag the mouse back, and throw it forward and click, oftentimes clicking off the flash screen and like ruining your game. But like flicking the weapon across the screen, and I'd never seen anything like it before. And it completely got my awe. And I started showing friends of mine the series, and I think that's about the time that I started to follow Madness. And from there, eventually, I met Matt in like 2007 at Comic-Con, when I went out there to like help support Newgrounds and show support by handing out pamphlets and that sort of thing at the Newgrounds / Behemoth booth that year. And yeah, and from there, he had never heard of me. He had no idea. He didn't really watch things on Newgrounds at the time, except for like the errant cartoon from time to time. But I had absolutely honestly heard of him. I knew exactly who Crinkles was, and yeah, he and I were seated next to each other at dinner with Tom and all the rest of the Newgrounds gang at the time, and like Lewis and Afro Ninja, and of course all the like employees at the time, like Johnny Utah, who's still working there, Stamper, who's working now with Behemoth instead, and like meeting up with all these guys for the first time. Matt was the guy I sat next to, and since then he and I have been just talking ever since. Making a game together was like the next natural thing, even though it took us until like 2000 and what, like 12 or something to finally actually go through with it. But that's been it. That's my life experience with Matt Crinkles Jolly in the Madness series.
So, continuing on with that, you're probably the best person to ask right now what you're going for as far as gameplay with this. What differentiates you from some of the other shooters that have been happening, whether big title or arcade, as well as what differentiates this from the original?
Well, differentiating it from the original is pretty easy. Like you've said, or I think since Waller has said that it was, it's a 3D sequel. It's in Unity, which lets us do a lot more than Flash ever let us. And it's possible to create a 3D game in Flash. I've seen it done before. Our Minecraft skin editor that me and Afro Ninja put together involved a 3D model that you could rotate, but an entire game based on that, just to get that added dimension and to like basically multiply the level of tactics that can be involved in like squad combat. It's not practical. The game was having enough trouble running in 2D as it was. I wouldn't continue to stress it that way. So just the fact that it's 3D is a nice little thing that lets us open all sorts of new doors. And that's not just the fact that you're shooting in a I guess you would call it Z-axis, like in a Z-axis that extends off into the distance. You're not just it's not just that. It's like working in 3D. It lets us how do you put this? It's like when you have a character and he's armed to the teeth and he's sitting there and he's ready to go. It's not just one little Flash 2D guy with tweened hands that move back and forth. Like you actually have a character moving in full dimensions. It's more immersive when this guy with these guns is shooting from the left and then he zips across the screen to shoot to the right-hand side. And it's not this 2D game where suddenly his gun is pointing in another direction. No, now you have this guy who's just littering the screen with shots, like he's the heavy from Team Fortress or something. Like he's just unloading on the scene, and it gives it this massive new feel in playtesting so far with what we have, that we didn't know it was missing until we tried, and we never in the 2D prequel, the first game, would have ever seen that it would have been as explosive and game changing as it was. Now, as far as you also asked like gameplay features or
the major ones that you think should be mentioned when describing the game, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let me see. Well, one of the first ones that we carried over because we kind of felt it was unique, and I haven't really seen games do it before, is the TAC bar, which stands for just tactics or tactical bar. I guess we never really decided, but it's one of those things. We just got so used to calling it TAC bar that we just sort of let that slide. And that to me was based on the idea of okay, so look at hit points, right? The classic indication of health in any game, right? I think hit points came around with like early tabletop games, like original Dungeons and Dragons and those like magazine tabletop games that used to come out like like in the 70s, I think. Anyway, hit points are just an indication not of health in those old days. It was an indication of how close to being defeated you were. So let's say you've got 100 hit points and somebody stabs you for 10 points of damage. It's not damage, it's hit point damage. Your guy didn't actually get hit or stabbed. He like deflected it, but it took him off balance. And so now you've gone from 100 to 90 hit points. That doesn't mean you can get stabbed 10 times for 10 damage, whereas somebody with 10 hit points can only get stabbed once. You can only get stabbed once no matter how many hit points you have. It's just how capable you are of protecting yourself and continuing that defense until finally you just succumb to wounds. So TAC bar was kind of like our way of doing that. And I guess for those who are unfamiliar with the way this works, it's like a shield in any game you've ever played, like Halo. You know, you've got your Halo shield. When you haven't taken a hit in a while, it comes back, but otherwise it's what stands between you and taking damage directly to the body. And in this, though, shots go through you as you visibly see your character duck and weave out of the way like he's some sort of Matrix bullet-dodging agent. Maybe not that cool right away, but the more you level up in this game, the more cool the dodges are going to look. In the beginning, they'll be clumsy if you're even lucky enough to have a TAC bar. and what, this sounds like it'd be the same thing. It's all just numbers and a bar that goes up and down. But it's where you are when you take the hit. If somebody shoots you from behind, the tack bar drains faster. If you're not behind cover, the tack bar fills up more slowly. We've done a lot more with the tack bar than we did with the last one, but the main thing carries over, which is that you dodge the bullet. You don't absorb the hit. So a very tactical guy is not going to be a bullet shield for the guys behind him. When you send in a heavy tank, it's because he's got heavy armor. If some dude goes in dodging every shot, he's doing nothing to absorb the hits for the dudes behind him. So I haven't seen other games do anything like that without like an active dodge button, which is not what this is at all, because tack dodging doesn't interrupt your fire or combat in any way. So that's one of the main ones that carries over that we've also tried to refine a little bit.
Now, as far as this is a shooter game, how
Sure
are you
is.
guys approaching that kind of development? In the past, as far as Project Nexus goes, it was very, very similar to what someone would experience from the original series. What are some of the changes that you made from that, especially adding the 3D element?
Well, I think that when you look at the progression from cartoon to Nexus 1 and then Nexus 1 to 2, I don't think it's very difficult to convince you that Nexus 1 was intended to be a game, yes, but more like a simulation of being able to experience that world, but actually interactive with it. So it's like playing in the cartoon, right? Like you're running around with this character that looks identical to somebody you might see in the series. We did what we could with the limitations of Flash to make the characters lock into combat and make it sort of feel like you're watching one of the cartoons. Obviously, it's still a game, and the game demands rules. We started to realize this right away before we had a tack bar, where I should say the tack bar, so it doesn't sound like I'm saying a tack bar. And you'd have like 5 guys would run in the room, and you'd fire at them, and they'd all get shot. But then as soon as one guy fired, you'd get hit, and then like you'd be dead, or you would just be loaded with bullet holes, which would look ridiculous. That's how we started to develop that. But the game was just a simulation of the cartoon. But Nexus 2 is actually making a game out of the simulation that the first one was. Like, we're actually approaching this less as trying to remain authentic to the cartoon. We're doing it as much as we can. The original creator, Matt, is doing all of the art and all the original 3D models. I help him where I can, but ultimately he's the guy who's creating the animations and the artwork that you see. So it's still going to have his authentic flair, and it's going to feel like a Madness game. And it's going to feel like you're in the Madness world, despite being in 3D and despite it being less a simulation and more of an actual game. But I think that's the main thing. That's the main thing that we're going for, is we're looking at beat 'em up styles in other games that have done something similar. We're doing close quarter combats as though you're playing a game like Metal Gear, where like the close quarter combat takedowns are involved. They're not quick time events like God of War or something. They're just the result of a series of combos that take place. And whereas the last game was sort of missing that, your character didn't really have combos. You just sort of unloaded hits on the guy until he fell. We want melees to be more progressively flowing. We want you to be able to determine whether or not you do a headshot with a sword will be the kind of keystrokes that you do. So you can control when you do headshots, but it doesn't involve pressing another button that makes you aim towards the head or something. We just want everything to feel organic, flow like the kind of games that people would expect them to, games like Castle Crashers, but actually have that depend on your character's skill, his fighting style, the current weapon that he's wielding, whether or not he's strong enough to carry a weapon of that size or that's too small for him. For like a big brutish guy with heavy strength, a little tiny knife in his hand is going to be ridiculous to somebody with more dexterity. And we want it to feel like every condition that led to you playing that particular character with that particular weapon at that particular time, we want it to feel different, but still be controllable and have a level of prediction where you know when you're button mashing what result you're going to get, with variations, of course. So that was very important to us right there, is making it a game and treating it like one instead of the last one, where that wasn't really our approach.
Well, I think as far as that goes, a lot of the fans trust that vision, and they've been showing it with the Kickstarter. Sean,
yeah.
do you want to bring up some what's going on there?
Pardon? So you can say that again? I'm stunned.
Somebody wake up Sean.
I just kind of zoned out for a second. I was too busy being
so many words.
So many
So
words.
Do you want to bring up the situation of the Kickstarter?
Okay, well I've got the Kickstarter open. Things have been going well so far. But yeah, this is the final the kind of final push. As of 15th of the 9th, 2014. We're currently at $46,678.
Yeah.
How many days left do we left?
We have 8 days left. So that's, just under $10,000.
And what are we going to try to get the community to do?
Pardon?
What are we going to try to get the community to do? How can they support both the Kickstarter campaign financially, as well as if they can't, what can they do to help us out spread the word?
Well, people who are listening to this and they don't know, the Project Nexus 2 is on Kickstarter. You can donate a minimum pledge of $1. There's also a giant list of great rewards from $5, $10, etc. And you can donate as much as you want to help this cause. And of course, if you're maybe too young and you want to help in a different way, we currently have a Thunderclap set up. Both of these links will be in the description below or anything like that. And basically, Thunderclap, what it allows you to do, it allows you to you kind of pledge your social media, your Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr, and it will basically the current countdown is 5 days. So when you pledge your social media on the 20th of September, Thunderclap will send a message through your social media to alert people about the Kickstarter, to get the word out and hopefully get a few more funds coming in. Currently we have 191 pledges on Thunderclap, and that's going to go out to 98,635 people. We're really close to reaching 100,000 right now.
It's a hell of a lot.
It is.
Yeah, Thunderclap is such a cool idea. I was blown away when I first saw this one Kickstarter doing it. And as far as I know, like I noticed that they got something like 102, like they'd barely reached their goal by the time it hit the 3-day mark, like 3 days before the end of their Kickstarter campaign, which seems to be the trend. That's typically, I think, when people use this utility, that's what they do. But yeah, it was mind blowing that just with like a couple of people, like 100 people say, yeah, we'll help out, and it's so many thousands of people, just like that's the world that gets to see that, is that many people. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it definitely looks like to be one of the best utilities that's been going for support in the campaign. And we'll put a link in the description or comment section below wherever this video is posted with that link. And you can sign up both with your Twitter, Facebook accounts, and I believe Tumblr as well. And if you just sign up, it'll send one message on the day, which I believe is September 20th at 6 p.m. Yeah. So if you guys can't support the game for whatever reason financially, it's another way to help contribute. And also, as well as being on the Kickstarter, there's also been some news from you guys, from Michael and Matt, on not only development from the game and things getting revealed, but also some competitions. There's been quite a few concepts revealed about some of the enemies: bandits, agents, employers, or the employers, the sheriff, and I believe a merc group as well was released recently. Was that correct?
Yeah, there was a merc group and a I think did you say the bandits also? I didn't
Yes.
catch. Yeah, those guys are in there too.
Now,
I like it. Matt's actually finally thinking of these units in terms of just not just guys that happen to be more or less skilled, but dudes that work with tactics and actually feel morale drops and don't like it when you kill their leaders, as opposed to the traditional madness guys who are pretty much okay with that. They, their leader dies, they die. It's all good. It's no problem.
so these ones have a little more personality than what's been seen in the series before.
Yeah, I think so. Not that I think that the mindless, brainless swarms of the Agency Against Hank Wimbledon, the AHW, are unnecessary. I think they're mandatory to the series. But yeah, it's nice to get some more flavor in there for sure.
All right, and these factions, are they going to be just in the story elements of the game, or are they going to bleed into some other elements of the universe, like, say, Zed Survival Mode, or maybe even later down the line, would these be added to the canon series?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Zed Survival is going to be one of those game modes where you're less likely to find like the agency units. Not impossible, but because the whole point is that infrastructure has failed, the place where you would find I would say for the most part, you're more likely to find mercenaries and raiders, cannibals and bandits. Really, like the bottom feeders, the real scavengers. These are the guys who are going to survive, barely, mind you, but survive to cause you the most problems from the human element anyway in Zed survival mode. Than say like actual organizations like Nexus people, because the Nexus is assumed to have fallen in Zed survival mode, or the agency, which they don't really have much place there. So you're likely to see them, but it's going to be very unlikely. So yeah, the new groups are definitely suited to the kind of environment and world that we're creating with this game, regardless of the game mode.
Now, the characters you revealed, both the employers, which seem very reminiscent of the auditor, and the sheriff, which everyone thought was 100% killed in the series. Could you tell us how they fit in the story, or what can you reveal about them at this time?
As far as how the sheriff has come back and we don't know how or why.
Maybe.
All right. Well, there's okay. So early on in the Madness series, anybody who knows it is familiar with how Hank was hired to kill the sheriff long before Hank even had a name. You know, being Hank, he was hired to go kill the sheriff, and we never really know why. We don't know who this guy is, what it is that he's sheriffing, what is it that he's protecting. We know he has access to this improbability drive, this sort of device taken out of Hitchhiker's Guide, that sort of defrays the natural structure of the way things are supposed to work, and why the Jesus character is protecting him in the first place. So we don't know any of these questions, or the answers to these questions, and I don't know that a lot of people even ask them because, you know, it's just a cartoon series about people killing each other. But I can tell you that a lot of those answers are going to come with Nexus 2. Specifically where this base was that the sheriff was defending in the first place, that Hank was supposed to kill him, how it is that he came back. I mean, he's clearly been stitched together. Madness has a long history of characters being stitched back together before they come to life, not the least of which is the Jesus character, the Savior. We also have a lot of Abomination units are post-stitching. I think the Golem units are, yeah, they have a lot of stitching going on as well. And I think Walrus, was yours the one that was the character for the contest? The dude who stitched people back together, right? Dr. Olaf.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that idea and using him to kind of answer that question. I'd be curious to see if he gets introduced in the game, if that's the one people vote for, to see if we can't use him to kind of answer that question.
Speaking of which is a perfect segue into the next topic. You guys have recently been running some contests for backers in which you back the competition or back the Kickstarter. It doesn't matter how much. You'll be able to have access to any of these contests, which will give rewards out, whether that you're gonna have your content be added to the game or some extras. Now, the ones that have happened so far are the personality contest, which you guys had the winners for. I believe you changed the rules halfway through. I'll let you explain that one.
Yeah. Shall I go, or do you want to introduce all the contests?
No. I'll go through them one by one.
Okay. Yeah, we had so many entrants and so many people pitching in ideas, and these are of course Kickstarter backers, like you said, who have donated even $1 that qualifies them as backers, and they can give ideas and throw down for the their entries for the contest. This one was for Zed survival mode, where you don't build a killing machine, you actually build a team that you control of zombie apocalypse survivors who are attempting to not go crazy in the post-apocalyptic world, not get eaten alive by either humans or zombies, as well as not starve to death, dehydrate to death, or even just kill themselves in the process of trying to survive. And to make a game like that work without turning it into The Sims, we have this very streamlined system of whether or not a character is sane or crazy, based on how they experience the world, which we just call survivor personalities. And so we had a contest where players could, that backers could pitch in ideas to determine what kind of people exist in this now post-apocalyptic madness zombie world. And these include like the ones that we'd already designed would be like the psychopath who enjoys seeing people die, to the con artist who's more concerned with making sure he doesn't get a fast one pulled over him, while at the same time he's robbing other people blind, to the nurturing types who just want to see other characters grow and be happy. And we had a couple of really good submissions, and Matt and I could not decide between picking 5 of them and then bearing to have people vote for them, so that only one could be in the game. The 5 that we picked, we loved all of them and wanted them all in the game, so we just kind of nipped that in the bud and just threw them all in the game and congratulated the winners and moved on to the next contest.
Which you're now currently running. You've chose the five potential candidates, and they were based off of characters that would be added to the story and canon of the Madness universe.
Right. One of the I think the most common type of submission that we got for this for the story character contest would be characters that are, and I like this idea, but the problem is Madness is already based on this, and we have so many of them, is a character that's like, he's the loner who he's really good at what he does. He's a test experiment who managed to escape or was promoted, and now he's either working for an agency and is the best at what he does, or he broke away, killed everybody for the agency that he worked for, and now he's the best at what he does, but as on his own while the law hunts him down. And there are a lot of submissions like that, and it's not a bad idea, but ultimately it was difficult really to pick one of those out of everybody who had submitted something very similar. I mean, we had dozens and dozens of them, and a lot of them were good, some of them more well-written than others, but ultimately picking one amongst all of them, we ended up just going for the more unique ones, or the ones that complemented the world that we created as it is. And I mean, I'd love to go through the ones that we picked, but really, I'd rather just plug the Kickstarter and say, go check it out there. You don't have to be a backer to go see what the current status is of the contest. You can see what we went ahead and picked, and that'll be on the Kickstarter link that I'm sure is available somewhere associated with this podcast.
Yes. And if you are interested in taking part of this contest, you can always back the Kickstarter. And I believe the instructions are in the posting that you listed the 5 runners up for the winner of the contest.
Yes.
All right. And then recently, I believe only a day ago since recording this podcast, you released the information on another competition, propaganda posters, if you want to explain how that's being run.
Right. Yeah, I think we put that one live about 5 hours ago, but we announced weeks ago, in advance that we were going to be doing this, not with a lot of details, but we just wanted people to be ready. And this is in the vein of most Newgrounds-oriented art portal contests. And I'm still talking to Tom about associating this contest with with his website. Obviously, it's for backers only, so there's some difficulty there, but the idea is this is the first one where it's not like a text-only sort of thing where you just write to us. We're actually asking for artistic folk out there, though you don't have to be. Simplified is fine. I mean, it fits with the Madness series. You're creating a poster that is supposed to work in the same vein as like Soviet propaganda, Chinese propaganda, women's rights propaganda, really anything you want. So long as it fits in that same idea that we will overcome as a simplified art style is just fine. Piece of art, like a poster that you would see up on a wall, maybe 20 of them lined up on a building. Obviously, they've been plastered there. They're weather beaten. They're ripped up and whatnot. They're from a bygone age, but we need posters like that all around the Madness world. There will be plenty of them. But we want to give backers the chance to actually produce one that will include the final game. And it'll be all over the place, not just in one spot. So they'll be able to point to people and say, hey, look, I designed that. That's my contribution to the game.
Now, when will these submissions have to be submitted by? And
let me see. I think we said this one was the 20th, and I'll double check that. Okay. Which I have right here. Yeah, the last day of submission is September 20th. Which, if I'm not mistaken, is Saturday. So that's going to be Eastern Standard Time. That's East Coast United States time. So, by midnight, basically. I mean, we're lenient. It's not we're not hard asses about it. But we're just trying to aim around then, because that's about the time we're going to start collecting the ones we like and putting them together for voting, just like the story character contest.
And when will that voting take place?
The voting will take place immediately afterwards, just the next day, so on the 21st. And we'll probably run it until the 23rd and announce it right before the Kickstarter finishes, like which person won. If it doesn't look like we have a lot, then like a lot of submissions, because it depends. This is a more rigorous contest because it actually requires at least a minimal level of artistic skill to be able to open MS Paint at the very least. We don't ask much, but it requires a little bit more of people. So we think the voting on this one's going to go a little bit faster.
Well, that sounds good. And there's one last thing you've been adding to the Kickstarter recently, which is backer exclusives, which surprisingly haven't been actually tied to the tiers that most people have been using or stretch goals. You've been doing them on their own based on dates that people back.
Right.
So what are some of those exclusives, and why did you choose to go with the date rather than do it on stretch goals or how much you raised?
Honestly, I remember asking myself when this whole Kickstarter campaign started, man, what is it now? 21 days ago. For whatever reason, we went with 29 days instead of the traditional 30. Uh, don't ask me why. I really don't know. But I remember looking at the people who jumped on board right away. And I know these were folks who were enthusiastic about this game, and we feed off that enthusiasm. It made us excited too. Then, of course, like every Kickstarter project, it sort of leveled out for a while, and there was a little drought for the next couple days where a couple people would back, and we'd go up maybe a couple $100. We'd be lucky to hit 1,000 in a day for about a week there. And even though that's not the numbers that we're looking for at that time, every single one of those donations is as valuable to us then as it would be right now. And I remember thinking to myself, these guys stuck their necks out. These aren't the ones who were just like caught on the hype train and really just they wanted to support the game because they're enthusiastic about it. These are the guys who weren't part of that hype, but who or were so late on the hype that they made up their minds later. But they still backed the project within a week when there's no way to tell whether or not it's going to succeed. They really stuck their necks out at the beginning, and I thought to myself that at the end of the day, everybody who donates is valuable to us. But for the ones who were there, who gave encouragement to future backers, the ones who put that number up higher so that other people would then be encouraged and decide, this is a project that's going to succeed. I think I want to get behind it. I thought that those people deserve to have something a little bit extra. Not cost, I don't want to take anything away from any future backers, but deciding to make extra content for them, it's honestly, it's the very least we can do because a lot of people are really, really getting behind this project and just throwing together a couple of cool outfits or unique things and exclusive stuff for them. That's really, it's almost nothing compared to what they're doing for us. So it's kind of a case of it's the least we can do.
That sounds very honorable of you.
Why, thank you.
Is there anything in the Kickstarter that's coming out in the future that we should know about? Any more reveals of concepts or anything like that, or things that you maybe have planned?
Yeah, we're waiting on, not to throw him under the bus, but as you guys know, we're waiting on Cheshire, our in-house musician for the Madness series music, to have internet again, so we can post. We've promised a couple of exclusive tracks from him that we want to post for hitting 750 backers. We're now at 772, so yeah, we're lagging behind, but I promise we're trying to get this out as soon as possible. Hopefully by the time this gets live, people will have already heard the music we promised. But yeah, we have that to look forward to. Later this evening, as of this recording, I'm going to be putting up some exclusive like looks at locations that are going to be taking place in the new world, to kind of straight from Matt Crinkles Jolly's tablet and pen, to give an indication of the kind of areas you can expect to visit in story mode as well as Zed survival mode in the game once it's done. Because we've focused a lot on characters, I think it's now time to focus on Nevada, on the setting, which is equally important, I think.
Actually, for this setting, in Zed survival mode, you had the city kind of in the background. Is that going to be? Is that going to be a unique kind of setting, or is that going to be based on like Las Vegas or any kind of buildings like that?
I mean, it's definitely going to have a style that is reminiscent of, I would say more like inspired by games you've seen like Fallout, like games that have done a really good job of just like taking a built-up place and just ruining it, like just destroying it.
Utopia. Is it Utopia? Is that the word?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. So is it...
Dystopia, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like it's not really going to be based on any particular city, and the Nevada that this series takes place in is not the real Nevada. It's it's like a simulated Nevada, obviously fictional and clearly a wasteland. Nevada may have its deserts, but
I thought Madness was based on a true story. What is?
Yeah, everybody who died,
Mind
who's died in that
blown.
series is somebody that Matt and I have met in our lifetimes.
Oh man.
Hank J. Wibbleton. Who is he?
Yeah.
Now, when developing some of the portions of the game to do with like canon and the series, a lot of people have invested a lot of time in it. And you guys have said this is an alternate timeline to do with whether the improbability drive was turned on or turned on when it did. What are you guys doing to still tie it in with the story to keep you guys invested? Because I would say, as fans, both Sean and I, and probably Walrus if he talked, could say that we're pretty invested in this series. What's being added to that canon, even if this is a bit of an alternate timeline to give the game creative freedom?
Okay, I think the best way to answer that is instead of talking about the characters, right? Because, you know, we've talked about the sheriff and you've mentioned the employers who are deliberately mysterious right now, and we'll get to them eventually, I think. But I think I want to answer questions with this, and I think Matt is, I think we see eye to eye. Have you ever noticed how there's a lot of like DOS-based script all over the place? Like in the cartoon, the auditor is talking to people. He's like instant messaging on his computer. He's like inserting commands that seem to affect the real world, even though he's like, you know, like let's say when he infects the Jesus character with this like deadly virus in the episode that where Jesus is the protagonist. He types it into a computer like right in front of him, and in the real world it manifests. So, you know, why is that? What is this world where there's clearly this this overlap between folks working on computers, like dealing with mechanisms like the cloning machines, the improbability drive, the computer that the auditor uses to change reality? What is the connection between that and, you know, the weird flashy text where somebody seems to be typing something, like when Tricky talks or when he seems to like express himself? Why is it that there's always this digital representation of everything in this world? Now, obviously, I don't want to answer that question now because that's half the point of playing the story mode, is to figure out what the hell is going on. But that's one of the big things we want to answer is what exactly is happening behind the curtain? Like, who's running the show? Not just the employers or the auditor or, you know, who are the leaders, but what exactly is happening behind the scenes? And I think that's going to be one of the big canon things that we reveal. Because even though this can be looked at as an alternate timeline or dimension based on whether or not the improbability drive was turned on by the sheriff in episode, what did we decide, 4 or 3, actually?
3.
Despite that, it's still the same world. It's still the same existence, even if it is multiple realities taking place at the same time. And I really can't wait to show exactly what the correlation is between that. But again, that's the point of story mode, is we're not just throwing you at bad guys so that you can stealth kill and stab dudes in the head and shoot at them. We also kind of want to tell a story of what's taking place at the same time. So
the Madness universe is expanding with this, most definitely.
Yeah, it's not just expanding, but it's answering a lot of the questions that anytime Matt answers one question with a new cartoon, just 20 more just pop up. It's crazy. It's not that he's making it up on the spot, though. Sometimes he does, but he's very, very articulate with his canon. Not just story canon, but making certain that when somebody fires a weapon, that every single bullet, every single round in that weapon and inside the magazine is accounted for. A gun never fires off more shots than it actually could. Matt is crazy about continuity. He's crazy about strict adherence to the rules, and I think that we'll be able to answer a lot of questions within that strict framework once we finally get to, out of the Kickstarter and onto the real development again, which I can't wait for. Because I want to answer those questions.
There's been a lot of information here already.
It has.
Yeah, I know. He's gonna kill me if I've said too much.
Oh, don't worry. We'll send this to you and get it edited.
This is right. This is just for you guys, right? This isn't like you're not sending this to anyone, right? Or putting this online.
What?
Never, right? No one else is gonna hear this but us, right? What is a podcast anyway? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Sean, I think you should take this one from here. I'm gonna go into a bunker.
We've reached the 50-minute mark roughly, so I just wanted to take a short.
My voice hurts.
Just want to take a short little break to process all of this information. Just ask how everyone's doing, other than madness at this current moment in time.
I don't know. There's so many questions now.
Let me start with Walrus, the silent.
Me.
The silent one. What have you been?
I have been the silent one after my humongous ramble. But,
you deserve that break.
Yeah.
Is that a cue for me to shut up now?
No.
I'll
Talk
take.
with
I'll
us.
take
We're trying
it kindly.
we're trying to make you into human this point, not the salesman.
Yeah. So what's been going on, Walrus?
I've been trying to do an essay. It's not been.
While you're doing the damn podcast we've been concentrating on.
What's this essay
Yeah.
about?
It's about the Cold War. It's pretty cool, man.
Oh, the Cold War.
Determining whether the leaders of both parties were like the cause of its beginnings, or was it something else? Ooh.
Why was this war so cold?
No, it wasn't. It was really. It was not, because the Cold War was essentially the term describing the whole sort of time period between the end of the Second World War and Cuban Missile Crisis. It was called the Cold War because it was a sort of like battle of getting more power between between Russia and the US. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of wars in between them, like Korean and Vietnam Wars were big, serious, scary things that happened during the Cold War. I think it's a bit odd that we call it the Cold War because it's not really as much a war as it is a sort of time period.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
It was right. It's like, okay, I guess it's like a sub-imperial. It's like it's a series of empire states, right? Like you've got Russia, China, United States. You've got a bunch of different countries all vying for control of the world.
Yeah.
Being more the guys holding the puppet master's strings rather than the ones that go in to actually invade. You know, this is not post 9/11 where we go into Afghanistan. This is actually like Russia going into Afghanistan to try to project ideology and you know what, you should be the one telling the story of the propaganda posters, because that's when the Cold War, that's one of the things the Cold War really pushed in China and Soviet Union was that.
Why are you
You
laughing?
should have been talking about this.
For those,
This is serious business.
for those who just tuned in, welcome to the History Channel, where we're talking about the Cold War.
We're just,
Yeah.
This is what's really driving the game and the Kickstarter campaign. A bunch of intellectuals who are looking at past promises of glory based off
I need
of the
to-
new empires
Crap, I need to go for a second.
coming
I need
out
to go
of
for a
the
second, be right
ashes
back.
of all the old ones that
Yeah.
were completely destroyed after the world wars that ravaged Europe and the powers that be at the time.
Yeah, it sounds legit.
The Cold War. So
How did you meet with us? How the hell did you get us to help support your campaign?
I don't know. I was flicking breadcrumbs on my sidewalk outside my house, and you guys all showed up and started, pecking at it or something.
I need you guys. You guys seem like you're
You guys-
motivated. We could
Yeah,
pay
you're
you,
motivated. You're easily qualified.
come on in here.
and you will work for damn near nothing.
Honestly, it was you guys. It was your punctuation. You guys write excellent sentences, and I was very impressed. So we just took it from there
That is actually kind of true, and I
Yeah.
feel now sad and depressed.
in a depressing sort of way.
Yes.
All right, I'm back.
Oh dear.
What I miss?
Lots of things.
Yeah.
Really?
Life-
Christ, I was only away for
life
like
and
10
Swain
seconds.
just told us the plot to MC11.
Now that we're getting kind of back on track with that shenanigans, you guys have been doing quite a bit on helping us help you and us getting you to help you. That idea just died in my head as I was saying it.
Okay.
But some of the things that have been
Rephrase that.
happening in changes in the community, you've got Nexus the banner up, and Tom Fault from Newgrounds has been helping you out. We've been doing a few things as far as the letter campaign to news sites, which again you've been also sending out your press release. I think you called it version 2.0.
Yeah. Now that we've actually had some success with the Kickstarter, it sounded like I said some sex, right? I know I didn't
I
say
knew
that.
it.
Now that we've
I
been
knew
having
it.
sex with the Kickstarter, wait a minute. No, wait, please.
Now I know
I
your
promise your money's
arrangement.
not going towards. Yeah.
I know your arrangement with Tom. It all makes sense now.
Well, now that we have been successful with the Kickstarter so far, I think that was articulate enough. We actually have a launching point to try to at least toot our own horn. Now that's not a sexual euphemism. If it is, to
Going
try to like
downhill.
actually
Keep going.
advertise ourselves, to let people know, we've actually gone someplace with this Kickstarter. We're not just this like little upstart vying for attention. I feel like we've done pretty well. And I don't mean like Crinkles and I mean like all of us collectively. You guys here on the podcast, people who have been donating with us, and not just especially the big backers. They're helping to push it, but everybody who helped to tick that backer number up. and just make the Kickstarter look that much better with every little bit of support. I really do mean all of us. We've done some amazing work with the Kickstarter, and now that we're all collectively in this together, now has been the time when it's good to reapproach these magazines and journals that may have overlooked our press release before, but maybe now that the name Project Nexus 2 is out there, with everybody's help, I don't think that we're going to be overlooked quite as easily. And that's what we're hoping.
Of articles that have been going up written by members of the community who happen to be in journalism, people in your local area of Philadelphia who've been writing up on you guys.
Oh, yeah, the Geekadelphia Journal's awesome. Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, just put up a little while ago, and now we're starting to see journalists we don't know, not in the community, hearing this. Smaller, though, a few big ones as well, but people are starting to hear about this. Sean, you're the one heading up the social media group. Have you guys seen a lot more interest starting to build as far as that goes?
There's been a lot less confusion after answering a few questions. Learning to talk to people of a different language, but it's been mostly good. I've been keeping up to date with the Steam discussions pages, various things like Facebook and on the forums. It's just mostly been good, to be honest. There's not really any large confusion that's been going on. For some reason, there's been on the the discussions page. For some reason, they're having an argument about Americans, which.
About what?
I don't know.
I think this is going to go into the Cold War discussion all over again.
Yeah.
Everything about this community is just backed by that fact I'm figuring out now.
That's
funny.
Oh look, Kickstarter questions. We can answer these live right now. Oh my god.
Yes, let's do that.
It's just right now.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Get some community involvement too.
All right. Shall I ask some? Or
if you find, just have a look. This is one you've already replied to, Swain. Actually.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to donate 15. He doesn't say dollars or anything, so I don't know what that means, but when it comes, how will I receive the game?
Yeah.
And how I'll pay. Oh, and how will he play the beta or beta? That's all he asks.
Oh yeah, on the Steam. Yeah, I managed to slip an answer in there real quick while we were talking, all shifty like.
What was that answer, being that we're on an audio podcast that can't possibly show this information?
Oh, I thanked him and told him that mine is actually reconfirming something someone else posted, which is that we'll send them a key for the alpha, beta, and the final game. I believe individually, but that'll be going through email. And of course, anybody who, if there's some problem with the email, if it's like, if for some reason it gets sent to the junk folder, or, it's the internet and we have hundreds of backers. Hopefully 1,000 by the time we're finished. Crap happens. So if anybody has any problems, they can just email us through the Kickstarter, message us, whatever, and we'll take care of it. I've tried to be very responsive with anybody who's messaged us so far. I intend to continue to do that. And of course, we're going to honor anybody who has pre-ordered. We're going to make sure everybody gets their copy of the game, and copies including the alpha and beta.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys have been pretty open with the information you've been going with, both the development as well as trying to keep in touch with the community, getting them as informed as they can be. Now, at first, like Sean was talking about, there was some earlier problems with information, but it was mostly, from what I saw, expectations about the game. Okay. Especially coming from like a 2D setting, and a lot of confusion going like, are you guys the original creators? There wasn't there one time in the Steam page there was one about copyright issue.
Yeah, someone said I foresee some issues with copyrights, something along those lines. Like they're like, I think I foresee you having issues with copyrights in the future, and we got myself, I think, and a bunch of other people kind of responded with, what are you talking about? It's at least a couple people insisted, and I believe I tried to clear it up as well. I don't remember now because it was weeks ago now, but the Crinkles, the art creator and co-founder of this not only company team, but like this game as well, this is his content. He owns all rights to it. He's the original creator, and he has never relinquished it or sold it to anybody. So what is he talking about? I think we managed to eventually figure out that maybe that's what he wasn't sure about that, and once he learned it, he didn't want to be wrong, or he still wanted to be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah.
He was insisting, I think, that no, I mean that, and this is what I construed from his weird answer. I didn't totally understand it, I'll admit. I think that he was trying to tell us that Madness created a world that was then emulated by a bunch of people who then created fan cartoons based on Madness, and our game may accidentally contain stuff that might look like it's inspired by these fan submissions, and thus we could be sued by them, even though Matt owes the original content. And correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I got out of it, but that's what I remember.
Once you answered that, I kind of just left that discussion because I thought it was solved. I guess not.
Yeah.
But
I think that, I didn't even continue to talk with the guy. I noticed that he was maintaining a conversation with somebody else in that discussion pertaining to that. It might have been Tomar. It might have been our good buddy Tamamoto who was trying to help him out. But honestly, I just don't remember now. We'd have to go back.
speaking of Tomar, there's been quite a few. Walrus is one of these guys helping us plug the campaign, which I guess there's going to be quite a few pieces of content coming for that soon. What are your guys' plans like that with trying to get the community involvement on your end? I mean, Sean and I and Walrus have been deeply involved in this, but what are your efforts on your end to get people involved, and what can they do to help?
I would say a day in the life for me at this point is trying to provide incentives for people to want to not just back the Kickstarter, which is important, but also to reach as many people as possible. And I think one of the main ones has been the Thunderclap, which of course we've all been involved in. We've all been spreading the word on that. For me, because I'm the one who maintains most of these media groups, I'm the one who makes the Twitter posts. Matt and I alternate between running the Tumblr, but as far as Kickstarter updates, I tend to be the one who does that since the Kickstarter's in my name. So I'm the one who can directly translate information between the two. If it's a Kickstarter update, typically I'm the one on the Project Nexus 2 Facebook. Matt and I are both creating not Facebook, but front page Newgrounds posts as well, to try to remind people of updates. And basically we're like, I guess, the trickle down, like we're the guys up at the top that are like creating the Tumblr post. And then hopefully people will retweet or share the Tumblr post or share on Facebook, the sorts of things that I guess it's like reblog or something like that. We want people to reblog everything that we create if they're so inclined. So my community involvement has been answering questions on Tumblr, and Matt also, we alternate, like I mentioned, answering people on Kickstarter, making sure that that people know the right way to go in the private messages on Kickstarter. Because if they post a discussion on the Steam group or on the Steam page for Greenlight, you guys are there to help me answer questions, and punctually, I might add. But then there's times where it's a private message to Facebook or on Tumblr or on Kickstarter or even on Steam sometimes, or on Newgrounds, where you know these are my accounts or our accounts. It's basically falls on me to answer those questions. So on top of talking with you guys and trying to come up with a good strategy for how to get the word out to as many people as possible, individually, I think that pretty much sums up a day in the life of Michael The-Swain trying to wrangle social media. And you'd be surprised, this stuff takes hours. Well, you guys wouldn't. You spend a lot of time on this.
Just a little, just a tiny bit.
I mean, we've so just to put into context, we've spent over an hour talking about the amount of work that we do, and that alone, I hope casts a projection of how much actual work we do, which I think is a lot, because we've had a lot to say.
Or we're just really, really good at talking and not actually getting anything done. No, I'm kidding.
I hope so. Jesus, I hope so.
Now that we're talking about community, we did have a section we wanted to bring up, kind of like interact with what's been happening in the community and ideas bouncing around, which is talking to you about some of the community ideas that have been happening on the forums and maybe some of the social media, of gameplay mechanics, elements that people want to see in the game, but you may not necessarily have seen, and we kind of want your take on them as we try to desperately sell them to you.
Okay.
Sean, do you want to take this, or should I?
Trying to figure out where the section is here in this giant.
Right under development.
There it is. Okay.
Do you want me to take the
I'll do the first one.
I like the first one.
You can have the second one.
Oh, okay.
I'm taking this one. Okay, one of the suggestions that was on the forums was for a kind of I think it was in reference to the wasn't the alpha, it was
Madness Interactive.
Was it interactive?
Interactive had this.
Definitely interactive.
Oh yeah, it had this, but in terms to Project Nexus 2, I believe it was for like the earliest playable kind of demo, I think, that we could get. They were asking if there was some kind of experimental mode. I'm not sure what that kind of like a. I guess it would be kind of like arena mode almost, but
not quite arena. Where it comes in is Madness Interactive originally had this white room that you could spawn in any weapon you wanted and a bunch of enemies. And the basic idea was, in a non-regulated, no rules kind of way, people could just use any of the weapons in the game and experiment with them and practice with them. There wasn't any additions for the game. It didn't get you farther. You didn't unlock anything by doing this. But it was just a mode that helped, or that gave people options, a little playground. And I know I spent hours in there, like learning how to throw knives. Would you guys be interested in adding a similar idea where you have either a white box that some people want, or something like the rooms you've been showing off in the dev builds, in which people can just spawn whatever they want, or what they've seen in the world if you want an unlocking system, and being able to play around? Would you think that would fit into what you wanted to add to the game?
That's the thing. I'm not averse to it. Ultimately, I think if it's anything that like contributes to the overall the overall like playability of the game and the versatility of it, so that story mode just doesn't feel like a series of rooms that are just a bunch of arena modes, right? As long as it feels like everything is its own individual self-sustaining game mode, I think the only limitation we have for not doing something like that would be the same reason that we've had to pace ourselves with the different modes that we can include, would be like stretch goals. But something like that would be doable, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me just see.
Is that sufficient, or should I be more specific?
No. It's good. A lot of people asked this. Mainly because of the fact that there's a lot of reminiscent from the Madness Interactive. A lot of people call it a kind of callback, not necessarily in a story or an Easter egg, but kind of continuing on sort of elements of the series, not just the Project Nexus series as a whole, that people resonated with. And as far as like, I guess what they just wanted to ask is, would you be interested in fueling their nostalgia for those types of things?
With like an experimental mode, etc.
Yeah.
I think if that did come into play, and I do want to have like a self, I would look at experiment mode as, the way we would do it would be like a self-induced tutorial mode. Like, congratulations, you've unlocked a new weapon, and holding a pistol and holding an SMG and holding a rifle, and the different kinds of rifles, whether it's a breech-loaded or like let's say you've got some sort of World War II rifle that you actually have to like lock it into place. Like, these guns, I don't want it to just be that they feel different when you see your character using them and you have to compensate. I'd actually like the way that you use these weapons to feel different. In the same way that I promise that holding a sword and holding a baseball bat are going to feel different when you're clicking through buttons to do combos. Mm-hmm. I want that to be the same thing with weapons too, and we're still working that out. But let's say you've got a new weapon, you don't know how to use it yet. I'd like it so that in arena mode with your arena character, that you always have the option of, like in the first Project Nexus, when you go through that door and now you're in the store and you can manage your group. I like it to feel more organic, where it's not done just with menus, but you get to walk around like a back area. Mm-hmm. Or if it's if we get more game modes like the AAHW mode, this wouldn't be your arena character anymore. This would be your custom character, and he or she gets to be involved in any game mode other than story.
Persistent.
And effectively, yeah. Like, you could be in the arena, now you can take this character and level up their their fighting abilities have been leveled up in arena, but their leadership abilities still suck. So you take them to AAHW mode so they can run their own base and start their own cause, and maybe even have those minions come and help them in arena mode. We have high hopes for that kind of thing. And so to practice with all these new game features, we want to have an environment where you would be able to load up the necessary new features, equipment, etc., and something like an experiment mode wouldn't be impossible. Hell, if I had my way and we had the time for it, I'd make it so, you know, you don't just design a base. Your character has like an apartment or something, like it's GTA 5, where you get to like buy a crummy little safe house or something. I would love that kind of stuff, and that could be the place where you summon your weapons and get to just shoot your furniture up or whatever it is you want to do. Having something like that, or like a danger room, I think it'd be great. I'd love to do something like that.
Well, I think
really, it comes down to the capabilities of what we can do with our stretch goals, honestly.
I think you just made a lot of people on the forums very happy about that.
Yeah, it's believe me, we have like, dude, like this game, we don't struggle for ideas. We struggle to find the best ones out of the ones we have, but we always want these new things, and an experimentation mode would be great. It'd be so good.
That's awesome. Okay, who wants to take the next one on our list?
I'll do it. Simple question. Someone asked, will there be weather in Z survival mode?
Yeah.
Who asked it?
Wait, was that?
I'll bring up the.
Oh no, open this.
I'll bring up the forums. It was a post by Game Zone, that was done a little while ago, and he details out a whole bunch of different weathers that he could potentially see being added to the game, kind of adding environmental hazards to zombie survival mode, where in a hard rainstorm you can't see, and in snow you slow down, reduced vision, one of your guys could freeze to death if he's not wearing like the proper clothing.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is I'm depending on if we get that full Z survival stretch goal by the end, which I don't think is unreasonable for what we're asking for money wise. If we do get that, what we were hoping for is to have like sort of a full world Z survival, so you don't really pick like the world will look the way we want it to in the end, but you sort of have like a warped version of Earth. You don't really have Nevada where you start, but you kind of have a world like an Earth itself, and you pick the area that you're from, and we would have like cultural and like unique equipment and weapons. Like, you know, the Chinese guns are going to show up in the Chinese area or the Russian area or someplace close to that. Maybe not so much like if you're in the US or England or something, but you would pick where you start, and from a couple of like starting locations basically, and it would sort of throw you into the world there. And the map will be one of our own creation, but based on that, like if you're in Africa and you're doing some sort of like Resident Evil Africa zombie thing, then yeah, you should have different kind of effects based on the climate that cause certain things to be more or less difficult for you, like finding water, for example, if you happen to be in the Sahara. And being in the swamp, like you're in Louisiana, yes, the disease is going to be a little bit more rampant. Water's not going to be as big a deal. Maybe not food either for hunting, but I think if we can get that sort of climate aspect of the extended Z survival mode, I could almost guarantee it that would be part of the game. Yeah,
that sounds
environmental
amazing.
factors.
I actually now really want to push people to get to those stretch goals.
$80,000, guys. We can do this.
We need
I
more
honestly
saviors.
think we can. I think we can.
Yeah.
Now that Madness Day is coming, I would say
this
it's a good possibility.
Yeah, the Madness Day plus the Thunderclap going off all at the same time. That's when we'll know. The day the Thunderclap goes off and Madness Day itself. Those are going to be the linchpins for us.
I
Make
definitely have full confidence that this thing is probably going to get funded by then. At least I hope so, because
I think like if
our
we keep up the momentum and people stay as dedicated as they have been, I agree with you. I think we'll at least hit the minimum goal.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned a few days ago. I was like, this thing is only just halfway through, and then the Savior came along and restored all our faith. Yeah,
as they are wont to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty brilliantly named.
Yeah. Anyway,
so
mind if I?
Yeah.
All right. So I have two questions, if that's okay, because I just came up with a question off the top of my head. So there's the question of limb damage states and degradation. Right. So I've seen a few people on the forums talk about how whether the sort of limb damage states are going to affect how your character plays out. And of course there's the question of how many things are going to fly off in lovely directions.
Well, Madness characters don't have limbs, so there's your answer. Next question. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like we're not just talking like you chop
No.
somebody in the head and you actually see a chunk kind of fly off.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. We're
But like, how does that affect your character's
yeah,
performance
like
when you're not dead?
can you, if you get hit by a baseball bat, will your character start limping unless they take something like a bandage, like in Fallout, for instance?
In Zed survival mode, almost guaranteed. Your guys are frail as hell in that. They're still fighters, and ultimately this is a shooter game at the end of the day. But we are going to punish you for every mistake you make with those characters, which is why we give you so many of them. Don't get too attached to them because they will die.
Oh, this is
it's-
XCOM all over again.
It is, yeah. Well, that's actually, I mean, in the tactical sense, yeah, but it's in that kind of like XCOM tactical sense, but not a placement of guys behind cover. That's what story mode is for, an arena. This is like, it's tactical in the sense that anytime you send somebody out on a mission, whether or not you're controlling that mission, be prepared for them not to come back or somebody on your team to make a stupid mistake. Not because of the AI, but because of the people that they are. I can always blame like crap AI programming on that was just their personality. They just didn't know.
That's
He
the
was
full
rubber banding on
excuse
that
for
wall
everything.
because he's obsessive compulsive.
Anyway,
This is terrible. We're gonna call you out on it now. Now that we know
Yeah.
your secret plan.
No, I just covered my bases. I'm good.
yeah. Anyway, shall we move on to
Yes, your second question.
Right, second question. So, in the original Nexus, we had only a few sort of weapon types. We had like pistols, melee weapons, fists, shotguns, rifles, and SMGs.
Mhm.
How many weapon types do you expect are going to be like included in this one? Because I had the idea like of maybe sort of boomerang type weapons like harpoons and hooks and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, mind giving us a little run through?
Okay, yeah, sure. I haven't really talked too much about the way skill trees are going to work in this game because we're settled on most of the main categories, but honestly, we need to continue to revise the combat system before we decide how we're going to let it evolve naturally. So more on that later, but a lot of what those skills will be and what you can do with those skills will depend on the categories that we have. Like, it won't be like you can't call what we had in Nexus 1 a skill tree because it was more like a skill line. You start from the beginning and you build it up in a linear fashion until you've completed it, or choose not to, or have run out of things to upgrade. At which point, every character is identical, with varying degrees of more or less hit points. And I mean that's fun for a flash game, but we want uniqueness in this game without just limiting you and saying no, you can only pick 10 skills. That's it, you're done. So when it comes to the categories, we're thinking that we still will have categories like SMGs and rifles. It's going to be more fine-tuned, like manual loading and like semi-auto and that sort of thing. Like certain weapons will have certain settings that you can use, and so a rifle in single-fire mode may actually require a different skill than a rifle that you flipped into automatic mode. And bear in mind, this is all like early stages stuff, and this is all liable to change at any time. But this is how we're trying to address it. So yeah, categories like multiple weapons could theoretically fit into a bunch of different categories, like a shotgun. Okay, cool. So it's it's like a breech-loaded scatter shot weapon. But what happens when it becomes a weapon that fires slugs? Because you know how to use that weapon, firing with a slug is a different sort of skill, you might argue, than firing with or leading with scatter shot. What happens when you run out of ammo? Well, you better know how to use a bludgeoning weapon because that's all your shotgun is good for now. And yeah, you can flip it around in your hands and use it like a baseball bat if you need to. These like weapons aren't just going to be cool. I am taking the shotgun tree and I'm going to be better at shotguns, and all uses of that shotgun are now going to be fully fully covered. And I'm nice and strictly adhering to just shotgun, and now I'm going to be good with that. No, it's we want to take people out of their comfort zones with this and give them a lot to work with, and that's I think how we're going to make characters versatile, and we're only going to do that by having these like overlapping categories. And you actually wouldn't even build them by going into the shotgun line. You would actually go into like the berserker line, which is better for close combat, and building up shotgun skills of his. But his shotgun skills may be great, but maybe you need the what is it, the demolitionist? I don't have it open in front of me, but the guy that's meant to tear down walls, and he's just great for destroying stuff. He may have unique shotgun skills as well. So you may have to actually dabble between different trees, building up your unique character just to get all those shotgun skills that you were hoping to have with this guy. So that's more what we're going for now.
All right, that sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you want to
I'm
be
cool with
Wesley
that.
Snipes and have a little bit of all martial arts styles. Go right ahead. Go do that.
Yes.
Your perfect Blade character.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love
That's-
Blade, and I can't stop with that movie.
Yeah.
I'm
That
obsessed.
sparks
It's a
another question
sickness.
in my mind about the unarmed skill tree.
Mhm.
Because in the original game, the unarmed skill tree was just like, oh, you can punch faster and you can do some pretty cool kicks and flips.
Yeah.
Quite excited to see what, doing only hand-to-hand combat is going to bring in this game, because I have heard some pretty fun things being rumored. So,
Oh yeah. Unarmed, the biggest strength is going to be the grabs that you have with it. But again, just like skill trees work, if you like are working up a wrestler class, you're going to get better grabs than if you just went up towards some like martial arts type class, or if you went for like a street brawler class. And when I say class, I just mean like a skill tree that you can dabble in, work up a line. Same as I said before. But like, yeah, let's say you're punching a guy and some ATP agent or engineer comes out through a back door, and now you've been flanked. You're boxing some dude in front of you, and you've got a guy coming up behind you, and he's just unloading on you with his machine gun. Now, in a normal circumstance, guys on the same faction or team don't shoot each other. However, let's say that you have this grab that lets you switch places because you've got some sort of like judo training, and this guy throws a punch at you. You do your counter, which will be another thing that's mostly unique to unarmed, and now you switch places with them. And for the time being, while he's in this stunned state because you've interacted with him with this power, he'll soak up any shot that was aimed at you. He's basically considered totally shootable by his own team, and they won't know necessarily unless they're tactical enough to avoid shooting it at him, because they may not even know that now he can be shot. So yeah, like being able to manipulate the battlefield, unarmed is going to be wonderful for that. And of course, it'll be pretty deadly too once you've mastered the higher levels of it. Just
Yeah.
focus on strength, get stronger, go for the skills that enhance your basic strength as well, because that's how you're going to excel with that class.
Groovy.
I think so.
Well, does anyone else have any questions or anything they found on the forums that should be brought up?
Yeah, give me your best shot.
I'll have a quick skim.
Oh,
Let's have a see.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question. Is Tricky going to be in the story mode? Because I was a bit disappointed that he was only an arena character.
Right. I think when we made 1, we didn't actually know that when we were finished with it, we would be done with the game. We thought we'd be updating it forever like we did with 1.5.
Yeah.
By the time we did that, we realized that was going to be impossible. And I really mean impossible. It couldn't happen. So Tricky would have made a bigger appearance later, because we kind of planted the seeds of with 1.5 of Tricky eventually being in it. If that's vague, then I'll leave it vague. If people know what I'm talking about out there, people who've studied the Madness Combat Wiki, then that's good too. But we kind of planted the seeds that Tricky would show up, but sadly we didn't get the chance to do it. But now with this game we can. And Tricky will be in the game. He will absolutely appear. We don't know if we're going to give players the opportunity to play him, at least not as a part of the story mode normally. Bonus rounds is this character could be kind of funny. But Tricky doesn't experience the world the way we do. He doesn't see it the same way. So he's more, we're thinking like a force of nature. Like that moment in Left 4 Dead when suddenly the horde of zombies attacks. And like now the bongo and like drum music is going really fast and you have to like take cover and prepare for the onslaught. We want it to be like that. Moments where you might be in a level that involves Tricky and now he shows up. And it's not about killing him. You can try. It's possible. But he will always come back. Really all you're doing is staving off disaster and trying to outlast him in some of these stages. So he's really a force of nature, more so than a playable character. But he will be appearing, for sure.
Good stuff.
Oh, that makes me want to ask more questions about the story that I know we can't get into.
I know. Well, a lot of it, though, we have a lot of like story options right now that we're trying to decide. Is this a canon question or is this like the alternate reality canon question? That we haven't completely settled on. Like we've thrown the pieces. We haven't really figured out where they're laying yet. So we have answers to the questions, but a lot of times, I don't know. This is going to have to be one of those tangents where it has to be vague because I don't want to spoil too much, and then not have it actually be in the game.
Yeah, we'll try to stay away from story as much as we can, as long as the story doesn't go with the gameplay too much.
Thanks, man.
I'll try for you because I care.
And you know what? I believe you.
I actually do. You better make this damn game.
Backer. Awesome. We're doing well on the Kickstarter today.
Well,
How much did we get?
Oh, we had another $100 backer today, which I have to personally thank. I always thank everybody by hand. I don't copy paste my thank you messages. I try to like look up and see if they backed anything else and understand who everybody is who's working to support the game, and giving so much to it. So I really try to like figure out who everyone is and how it is they found Madness and why.
And you've been very involved with the community so far. I mean, you recruited me to help you guys out with trying to organize stuff after I made my posts. You welcomed Sean in with open arms. We have conversations with you almost every day as far as Skype goes.
Oh yeah, of course.
on
I
the
try to be
chat.
accessible.
Yeah, and
It's very important.
as far as how the community I think should definitely take away from this is, as far as my experience with both Michael and Matt, so far they've been completely open with how their development's going, their joys and worries about everything that's going on, the situation at hand, the strategies they're coming up with helping to promote the game, and they're very passionate about what they're doing. From my perspective, these aren't guys who are going to screw you over unless something terrible happens with the project. These guys will do everything they can to finish it.
Yeah.
And you guys have shown it to us, the community volunteers who've been helping you in the background, trying to spread the word. And so far, I could say we've all been very, very impressed in both welcoming us and what you've shown to be what you guys are working on.
Yeah, that's the only way to succeed at something like this. Is Kickstarter is not just a utility that gets your money in our pockets. That's not it. Like everybody who's donated and everybody who's backed it is somebody who either is a personal friend of ours and wants us to succeed out of love and kindness, and we appreciate that. But for the most part, it's been people who want to see this game made, and it's wonderful and enthusiastic for us. It uplifts us to know that we're not alone in that we're not just making this game that's getting thrown into a black hole, that it actually has an audience. Every donation proves that to us. But it also gives us a great avenue, and Kickstarter is a utility. It's something we can use to message people, talk to them, see what their thoughts are, think out loud about concepts and get input. Kickstarter is more than just a place for you to punch in numbers that put our numbers higher. It's a way for us to look at everybody's opinion on the game. It's not even like a message board. It's not it's not a like a spreadsheet where everybody's just writing in information. It's a living, breathing thing. It feels like almost. And I was not really aware of that until we really got into it. And by the first week, I was kind of in love with it. So it's been pretty incredible.
Well, moving over to that, we should wrap this up. It's almost been 2 hours since we've been talking, and along with the fact that the community, Michael and Matt are happy to get volunteers for it, and any support that any of the Madness community or any fans of the series, or even people who just part-time watch the entertainment and the Madness series on the side. There's many ways you can help out by backing the Kickstarter financially, joining in some of the community initiatives if you can't. The Thunderclap, again, that we mentioned several times in the show, is linked in the description wherever you see this video, and it's ending on the 20th is when signups stop, and at 6 p.m. on the 20th it'll be sent out one message on any of the counts you sign up for, and we'll try to get as many people to share, like, comment on those messages as we can, and get the ball rolling for getting as much exposure as we can. There's been a few initiatives in the past, like tweeting and messaging news sites, trying to get them to start creating articles. We've got a few members getting responses, and we hope we've been spreading the message enough. Again, a few news sites, smaller ones, have been sharing around news of the campaign, and it's been helping every single one bit. And if you do want to help out more, not just with any of the things that I just mentioned, if you visit projectnexus2.com, you can visit the forums there. We've got many dedicated members trying to help out. You can just pop in, say your bit, help in share a few things, or even join our street team and try to actively galvanize the community. And we're very open about this. Michael has meetings with us every day. He talks to the community, gets down in the forums, tries to answer questions when he can, even with how busy it is. And it's been a great time working with him. And the community members have been really enjoying it. I'm hyped up for this. What about you guys?
Um, I'm fucking really excited for this because this is really looking out to be something really fantastic.
Yeah, it's
So,
okay, I guess.
I'm very hyped.
The hype is real.
A hype train.
Yay!
Hopefully this is going to be like I'm not gonna name here, but Destiny. Don't. Oh god, that game made me so depressed because
Which game was this?
Destiny. Like all the hype for it, and it was like
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to be the best thing in the universe, and then it was like mediocre.
Well, to me, as far as that goes, they didn't do much differently. They set up an MMO, they set up everything with an MMO, and threw what they knew about first-person shooters into it, except they forgot the biggest problem with an MMO. It's the mission structure and not the social activities, but how the game plays out over a progressive period of time. If
Yeah.
you have boring structure where the story doesn't stand out in a game like that, people get bored. And I like when seeing the trailers for Destiny, I saw that, and to me it was the gameplay features look fun. The multiplayer, as far as like competitive goes, seems really good. It's reminiscent of Halo. But when they showed missions, it was like, unless that area that they're showing isn't a hub or region, like I fear it is, kind of in the WoW sense.
Mhm.
If it is that, that's going to be really boring. And from everything that I have heard of online, including people, it's been the same thing over and over again. I get bored of the gunplay because there's not much to do with it.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
about right. But rarely have I actually seen MMOs that do this correctly, or push the envelope. It's I don't know. It's
But
gotten
it's
kind of pitiful.
technically not even an MMO, which makes it
Yeah.
worse. They just replicated it in a
Yeah.
single player experience.
That's how I felt about Spore actually when Spore finally came out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Had a really good
Spore
back
was.
episode, and
Oh,
when you finally
was
get to
such
the Animal
disappointment.
Kingdom. Yeah, it was basically an MMO that you play by yourself. I have never heard of something so horrendous. And
it was like
that was its own nightmare.
Ah.
That was not the fault of necessarily Maxis, or I guess it was just Will Wright.
Yeah, Will Wright is stupid. Like he planned all this amazing stuff for it, and it managed out to get like it was just such.
It
a
sounded like the
disappointment.
Peter Molyneux effect, where they promised
Yeah.
way too much. They were better salesmen than designers.
Yeah, it became like 5 or 6 different mediocre game modes tacked together into one game that was loosely based on continuity with one character that you've designed.
Yeah,
The space mode was pretty big. I liked the space mode all right. If you like exploration stuff, I thought that was good.
yeah. The space mode was essentially the main bit of it. Everything else was just kind of like rip-offs of other games. That was the point. Like each stage in the game was built around a different sort of game. Like Civilization stage was kind of obvious. Like, oh, I wonder what Civilization is based off of. Oh, not the game that's got the exact same title I'd expect. Yeah, yeah, but
No, it was Alpha Centauri.
beautiful.
All right, so do you guys have anything to say before we actually close the recording off?
I have said enough. I have said my fill.
Yep. I think
I just want to say that I'd like to say that Swain, you're a beautiful human being. And
Thank you. You're a pip yourself.
oh, it's inspirational.
All right, well,
You take that to the bank.
Thank you guys for listening to our rambles for the last 2 hours. We hope you got all the information that you needed from this podcast about the game, and we hope we incentivized a few people who were maybe on the fence about backing the game now onto our side, the good side. Are we dark? Are we the dark
For the
side?
good guys, for the winners.
We're the good guys, yeah.
Yeah.
For all the right reasons that you can't
Yeah.
question. Don't question, kids.
Yeah, stop questioning. Don't do it.
All right.
Knock it off.
Nexus Podcast, I think we're calling ourselves signing off. Is that how
Yeah.
we... No! Guys,
What?
keep on trekking.
What?
Yeah.
Boo, just kidding.
What terrible, terrible way to
I
end
still
the
have to
show.
put up the video. I got to put up the video of all of us talking. It's me with Trucker Justin, my buddy, doing the filming. Hence the keep on trucking. While we go through like 20 different things, and I'm talking to Matt on Instant Messenger while we're like trying to come up with like what the new exit line is going to be. We did end up using it because some of them are pretty bad, but I think I'm going to put it up as like a little extras thing. Yeah, that's my closing thoughts.
Yeah.
All right.
Now you know.
See you guys
Good night,
later.
everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.